take a seat. Our folks on that side, if you want to move into the middle, move into this corner, you can also do that. Beautiful. I hope y'all got to chat with some new people, get to meet Tony, and I'm so excited for the next section of our conversation. Before I introduce our panelists, tomorrow's Earth Day, and I want us, woo, 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 for the planet. I want us to just take a couple of deep breaths and connect with the ground below our feet to get ourselves in touch with this beautiful venue, the beautiful people around us. So just close your eyes for a couple moments and we'll take some deep breaths and try to ground yourself, push back at the ground below you. So we're gonna take 3 deep breaths. Breathe in and out. One more in and out. Last one. And out. Amazing. Thank you all. So this conversation is going to be around food justice and food sovereignty, which is a really huge issue here in New York, especially around a lot of the local places that Kofi and Tony work around. And so we wanted to bring them here today to talk to you about their amazing work in urban gardening, in the food sovereignty realm, and how that relates to intersectional environmentalism and how it relates to environmental justice. So without further ado, please give a round of applause for Leah Thomas, Tony Hillery, and Kofi Thomas.
Hey everybody. It's Earth Month, so let's give a little snap for the planet. Yeah, and tonight we're gonna boogie for the planet. So I wanna see you all, getting it. But anywho, so I'm Leah, and I'm the founder of Intersectional Environmentalist, and I'm still just kind of in shock that this is happening. This is so cool, and I just want to say thank you all so much for being here. But I think one of the coolest things about this evening are these 2 lovely gentlemen sitting next to me. So I would love for you all to introduce yourselves, tell us a little something about what you do and who you are. Tony.
Hey everybody. I don't need this. It's so good to be in person again. I swear to God, I missed this so much. What did they say? Brooklyn in the house?
Yeah.
Well, I'm Tony Hillery, and that's with an E, not an A. And I'm the accidental founder and now CEO of Harlem Grown. And Harlem Grown is a now 11-year-old nonprofit that started on a whim, if you can believe it or not. I had a change of life in 2010. The financial crisis kicked me in the ass like everybody else. I'm losing all my money, and I was so depressed. I'm not making all this money anymore. Poor me, right? And I was reading. Oh, you guys are a little baby. I'm dating myself. There was a thing called newspapers that was running. They were running a series on schools in New York City. I have 3 children myself. They're all young adults now. They all went to private school, kindergarten, and college. They're all young professionals. Who can do? That's what they're supposed to do. I'm reading about schools in New York City, and I couldn't believe in the richest city of the country, if not the world, that we have such a disparity in education. So I got my fat ass off the couch and waddled into the first elementary school I found in Harlem, and I said, I'm here to help. They said, help with what? I had no idea. There was no plan. I wish I could sit here and lie to you, but I can't. But I met children, pre-K, 5 to 11, who look just like my kids. As goofy, as cute, and smart, and childish as my kids are. But their track was totally different, only because of where they live. And I don't know about you, I didn't sit well with me. So the rest is, as they say, history. 11 years later, here I am serving 6 elementary schools and thousands of children. We grow 7,000 pounds of organic produce a season. Everything is free of charge. If our children recipe writing, literacy, math, and end result, 19 kids that are in 4-year universities, 2 in NYU, do this little actor. So that's what's up.
Yeah, Harlem World. Harlem in the house? I gotta get right back to you. What's up, everybody? My name is Kofi Thomas. I am a community builder, farmer, lover of food. This is like my bio right now. But kind of how I came to be in this beautiful place is I, much like my man Tony, saw something wrong in my neighborhood. I was in a neighborhood where there is very little or no fresh organic produce. Everything's super expensive. And we also have one of the lowest amounts of green space per capita in like the Northeast. So immediately I was like, okay, there's a massive level of injustice here, and what can I do about it? I was lucky, and I'm constantly feel like I just keep meeting the right people in my life. So I was lucky enough to meet this old, wild Puerto Rican activist named Hernan Pagan, and he gave me the history of Bushwick, of fighting for green spaces, of taking care of your community. And so under his tutelage, I started to learn how to really listen to the folks in my neighborhood and see what are some of the challenges and how I could be of service. So after having a lot of meetings and idea sharing, we started to plan out our growing season, started to look at what produce we could grow that reflected our community, our culture, and started to have these growing sessions. And from there, we are again looking at our community for what are our assets. We're like, oh, well, we're in a neighborhood that is filled with all of these beautiful artists. Like we've got poets and singers and dancers. And how do we share our green spaces now, this stage, this canvas for them to come in and show who they are. So from there, we kept growing and growing. And then a couple years later, one day sitting down, talking about, we're actually talking about growing cannabis. Shout out to everybody who loves that in the room. And he goes, yeah, you know, there's a place around the corner. Man, they're not treating it right. And I was like, well, what is this place around the corner? And he goes, man, it was a garden at one point, but now they just use it as a trash dump. So I walked on the corner, and there was this 13,000 square foot trash dump that was just had years of people dumping like sheetrock, doors, debris, and saw that and got excited immediately. I was like, I know our neighborhood. I know if we have a chance to get in here and clean this up, we're gonna make it something amazing. And that's what we did. And now that once vacant lot is now the Good Life Garden, and we grow tons of food every year and host free workshops, yoga classes, health and wellness, how to grow your own food, nutritional, like whatever you can think of, whatever you can offer, we're with it, and we just continue to try to be a place that reflects our community. So yeah.
Well, I am in the presence of greatness. Both of you all are so cool. So yeah, let's get into some definitions for people who might not know. So what exactly is food justice, and why is it needed? And maybe we could start with kind of a definition of what food apartheid is, and what food injustice is, and what that looks like to both of you all.
Okay, I'll take it. I don't know. I don't like these terms. I mean, I think these are terms that are made by people who really don't understand the issues at hand. I mean, look at this room here, right? We're so diverse. When we think of Harlem, right away you think of black, you think about poverty, you think about all this stuff. That's wrong. Harlem is a working class, proud community. We have thousands of children whose parents are working every day. Volunteering on my farm is a privilege. On Saturdays, we have thousands of kids, but their parents are at work. It's a food desert by definition, yes, right? That's city planners. It's not an accident that this happens, right? I grow tons of food, but people don't need free food. They need empowering. I don't live in Harlem, and I'm not from Harlem. I'll be the first to tell you. I was very privileged in my life, and in the comfort of my bubble, everything is simple. If I could do it, everyone can do it. Bullshit. I had a very lucky life. You can fail upwards in life, and I'm sitting here to tell you. I dropped out of high school, didn't go to college, fell in love with drugs and alcohol at 16. I got 38 years of sobriety. That's what I did. Had I lived in Harlem, that's who I am. So that's the difference. It's not a secret in this country, the majority of wealth is inherited, but so is poverty. But with poverty, if you're born with poverty, you're more apt to die in poverty. So I work in Harlem. I had a very lucky journey to where I am now. I travel the country. Corporations pay me to tell my story. I raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for my organization. But let me tell you a little secret. There's a Harlem in every city in this country. They're not all black, they're not all brown, they're not all white, but they are all poor. If you're poor, you're fucked, period. So I don't care where you are in the country, drive, you're gonna see miles of fast food restaurants. At every intersection there's a drive-through pharmacy. You know where you are, right? So justice is justice. Equity is equity. Let's stop separating it. It's all layered. It's not separated, it's all layered. If you have food insecurity, you have substandard housing, you have substandard schools, everything is fucked. Everything. Not just the food, everything. And then what do we expect from these children? So, sorry.
Yeah, and like, also like, no apologies, man. Talk your shit. Yeah. So I'm actually with the, like, I don't like labels, but I do like to give it a term of food apartheid, just to, just so I think, and this is from like Karen Washington, who's amazing from like Rising Root Farm. Yeah, she an OG. Like, definitely look her up. But to look at it from a point of like food injustice, because I think what can happen is when you are within a system of oppression, you can start to take that internally as if like you're just unlucky. Like, I guess I just don't have food in my neighborhood. But to give it a label as food apartheid, to understand that there's a system in place that has actually stripped you of access to food, then takes the burden off of you and can also empower you to say, all right, well, now that I know what I'm in, now I can start to do something to change that. To further to your point about the injustice, I'm with you on the equity, because a lot of times we take food injustice or food insecurity and it's approached in the way of, oh, we'll just give them free food. Mm-hmm. And that's really a Band-Aid on a more systemic problem. And that same person next to you will still need more food. That's right. So until you actually empower people and give them some equity so that they can grow their own food, have access to land, and earn, then we're going to continue to be in that cycle of food insecurity.
Yes, and let me just touch one more thing. In Harlem, when I went down there, and I tell you, I was overweight, unhealthy. I came from another line of work, which is it's not healthy. I go in there to teach kids, right? Let me tell you about the hypocrisy and arrogance of me. That's what I did. But when I met these little babies, and then I go outside to get something to eat, and I counted 55 fast food restaurants in a 3-block radius, sprinkle in 29 pharmacies, see the connection, and not one affordable food option. And I'm gonna tell a kid, just eat healthy? First off, what is healthy? And then how do I eat healthy? So these are the layers that we find in these underserved and marginalized communities. And again, it's not just Harlem, it's anywhere poor.
And who are some key leaders that you all look up to, or some of your mentors? Because you just said that the person you met, Karen Washington, was a mentor of yours. Mm-hmm. Who are some other people, or tell us a little bit more about Karen, actually. We could start there.
Well, when I first started, I said I'm accidental. I'm not kidding. I had time. It was selfish reasons. I was there for my personal benefit. I didn't care about anybody but myself. I had time. But then I met these children, and then I saw how people were gravitated to this narrative that I was creating and started coming. Kids with master's degrees who would come and work for $10,000 a year. What? Who are you? What does that? And that's what happens. That's the nonprofit work. It's not profits, it's people. And it was so foreign to me. And I went to a conference, and here comes this woman with dreadlocks. I mean, it was an all-white place. It was Just Food conference. I went. I might have been one of 3 black people in the audience, and on the stage came this black woman with these thick dreads chanting. And she just lit into systemic racism in farming. And I hung on to every word she said, and her name was Karen Washington. Afterwards, she pulled me aside, and we had like an hour conversation, and she became my mentor. Actually, what we do in Harlem, we partner with local elementary schools, which are all Title I. So every kid in that school goes for free breakfast, lunch, and supper in school. By the way, those schools don't have art, music, nor gym sometimes, depending on the budget. So if you want to talk about screwed, that's my kids. And we build hands-on gardens on each one of those sites. So what we do now, we name them after living people. So the first one we did was named after Karen. Next week on the 27th, we're opening a big one at PS 197, and we're naming that one after Leah Penniman and Soulfire Farm. Leah's gonna come down. It's gonna be a big event. So why give people flowers when they're dead, right? Let's honor them now while they can accept it, they can appreciate it. Let's change the way we normally operate. And I've been put in this position where I can do that. I can do that. I turn the nonprofit space in our space on its head. My minimum wage for entry level is $21 an hour and health care for everybody. And we promote from within. We don't lose employees. We got people bailing at other orgs to come work for us. So now other organizations have to step it up. If I can't do it, who can? And if I won't, who will? So.
Yeah, so it was beautiful. People who inspire me, I've got obviously Karen, but for me, I've been, again, I keep saying I'm lucky, but I am very lucky. I'm in Brooklyn, and when I started gardening, there was countless black women who have been gardening like on your block for like 30 years that you do not know. Like there are so many heroes in Brooklyn. Like right around me, just to give out their names, like Miss Roslyn, Miss Iris, everyone's Miss to me, out of respect. Yeah, all of them, Miss Yolanda, and they've all, in their own way, shown me like how to be a steward of the land, how to look out for the community, because like you walk into their garden and everybody who walks by, they know that person. And like, so those, really like just like those characteristics of like really being embedded in your community and looking out for it, like those are my heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about resources, because there's a study by the Solutions Project, which is an organization I really adore, and they found out that we got someone from the Solutions Project in the house. Her name is Ming. Woo-woo. And unfortunately, that study showed that environmental justice type organizations receive less than 5% of philanthropic funding in the environmental space. The majority of it, hundreds of millions of dollars, goes to white-led organizations that specifically focus on conservation efforts, et cetera. And then when you look at organizations that are environmental justice organizations that are led by black folks, it's less than 1% of that. So that creates all sorts of conditions where we're competing for grants and we're competing for resources. And a really great friend of mine, Aditi, says, we are the bearers of our own solutions. We have the solutions, we're doing the work, but we're in need of resources, funding, and support. So how is that, manifested for you all? What are some things that your organizations need? And then you're out here fundraising hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you have some solutions for the rest of us, please let us know. But yeah, let's talk about that, kind of that lack of resources for Black-led environmental justice organizations in particular. And if you all know any resources that we could start looking into that might be helpful.
Look to your left and look to your right. That's your resources. We have to stop being dependent on big philanthropy, all right? We're a shoestring organization. 80 cents of every dollar at Harlem Grown goes to programming. Our office is in a classroom in a school. There is no big overhead here, right? We're not equipped to write big grants to Robin Hood and all these big, they're just too restrictive. I don't have in my budget $60,000 to sit there and report on these grants. They're too restrictive. I gotta tell you, I'm the oldest guy in this room. Don't laugh, because one day you will be that guy, all right? Or gal. I don't understand social media. I don't understand any of that, but I do understand this. I don't leave my beautiful apartment every day to raise money. I go to Harlem to change lives. So I do not go hat in hand asking for money. But I do ask for them to send their employees to work with these children. And then the money comes, right? And let me tell you, I was featured in Humans of New York last year. This guy raised $1 million for me in 6 days, and the average donation was $20 from all over the world. So think about that. We don't have to be slaves to philanthropy. We don't have to compete with each other for grants. This is all part of the systemic racism that we face everywhere we turn. It's nothing new. But that too is changing, because with the racial awakening and the social justice movement right now, even philanthropy is reimagining how they give money. So don't beg. Keep your head down, do the work, the money will come. And if you don't believe me, ask me, I will help you. I already told Kofi here. I'm gonna be over there with him, helping him do this thing.
Yeah, we're gonna figure some things out.
Yes, sir.
Resources for me, man, it is definitely, it was, I'll say, disheartening at first, being new to the space of being a Black environmentalist and then trying to figure out how to get funding for projects in my community, because I would go to workshops, fundraisers, and it'd be me, and then it'd be like all white people from like universities, and I'm like, what? So how do we get the money that you all seem like you don't even need, right? So there was that struggle at first, and to what my brother over here said, what we started to learn over time was doing the work really helped to bring more people towards our cause. Mm-hmm. So almost like, they call like, if you're being who you are, the more you be who you are, the more people are attracted to that and come towards you. Now for us, what really got us to grow, and I think what's really important, because so many of you are like youthful, and what you don't maybe realize that you all are like, all like potential reporters, like you all have phones, you all can tell stories, so you're all journalists, so you all can spread stories about what you do or what's happening in your community, and bringing those eyes, that attention to causes is really what helps to mobilize them and move them. So like with, Citizen York, but I feel like it's, for me, what got me the most, I think, traction was we do a lot of like live music and a lot of really like we just party. I don't know how to say it. We party a lot at our garden, and like and I love that you were talking about how like music and the vibrations, combine that with activism, because that's what we end up doing in our spaces, and that really like music moves people and stories move people, and once you can start to touch a nerve inside somebody and make them like really empathize and care about who you are and what you all are going through, they become like, you just starts to build a bond, build a love, and then they will come and support you in any way that they can. So to that point, definitely look around you to your left and your right, and also to appreciate like the power that you have to bring attention to causes that you care about.
So my friends know this because I can't stop talking about it, but I just learned about the concept of radical imagination. And that has completely shifted Intersectional Environmentalist as an organization. I just released a book. So it's called The Intersectional Environmentalist, How to Dismantle Systems of Oppression to Protect People and Planet. It's long. But I realized through that if someone was asking me what systems I was dismantling, I could give a whole dissertation and I could talk about racism and capitalism and all these other systems of oppression and the oppressor that I felt that I was fighting. I could go on and on and on. But if someone were to ask me last year or in 2020, what is the future that I am building towards, I couldn't answer it with as much clarity. And that made me sad, because I think it is important to understand the systems that you are dismantling, but it's even more important sometimes to think of the beautiful future that you want to create, one where Black and brown folks are liberated. So I've been spending more time thinking about that future and thinking about joy, because I feel like joy is such a powerful motivator when shame could never motivate you in the same way. So I want us to, you don't have to literally close your eyes, but I might. And I want you all to tell me a little bit about the futures that you're trying to create and the joy that we'll find there.
Well, wow, that's deep. Again, I hate to repeat myself, but remember, I'm an accidental founder. I walked into this school not knowing what I was doing. I told you about the 55 fast food restaurants. Unfortunately, we have 14 homeless shelters in a 4-block radius in there, 9 of which are domestic violence shelters. Almost 50% of my children I serve are living in homelessness. So when I always think this big pie in the sky and what I envision no homeless children in New York City. Because, even when I say that, I see the polite nods here, right? What is a homeless child? Has anybody seen one? When I started Harlem Grown, I was mortified to find out that there were 68,000 homeless children in New York City 10 years ago. But guess what? In spite of the hundreds of billions of dollars we spend, today there's 115,000 homeless children, and they're disproportionately placed in communities like Harlem, Bushwick. Not because of the community. We know what happens when they want to put a shelter in Midtown. Communities come out in mass and protest, threaten lawsuits. So where do they end up? Take a guess. Those kids go to my schools, and this is that cycle, right? So my vision, everybody asks me, wow, this is great what you've done in 10 years. First off, I've done shit. The kids in the community have done the work. I'm the storyteller. The children I serve are the story. So those 19 kids I referred to briefly about in 4-year universities, when they come out, they're the ones who are going to be deciding what goes on in their community. So we're building these radical change makers, right? They're the ones. How do I come into Harlem telling what they need? Like I walked in, I'm going to go teach people. I'm a high school dropout. Who taught me? But that's that hypocrisy that we have and that arrogance. If I can do it, anyone can do it. No, that's not true. I was born way up here, and my kids are way back there. So how do we level that? So in my perfect world, next time you have this in a couple of years, I think I have Epiphany graduating next year from the University of Rochester, environmental major. She will be here telling you about what I'm saying in her voice, not mine.
That's beautiful. If I like to, really do like this question, because this is one of my favorite things to do, is to sit in a watermelon patch and just look out and just get lost for a few minutes and imagine everything. I love to imagine. It's it really is one of the things that gives me energy to keep going. I need to see some joy in the future. That's what gives me all of my strength. I need to see that this could be a garden for me to wake up at 5 a.m. and shovel. I have to know it's going to happen. So to radically imagine is something that is like part of what keeps me going. And I think joy is like a part of being like radical, especially being black, just to smile a lot. Like I always feel like it feels like a fuck you to a lot of the world when I smile. Like with this skin tone, like I'll be like, yeah, I'm happy, fuck you. So that's part of my radical shit. And the future for me, that's like radical and it's liberated, where like people feel safe to walk around, something that just to like be able to like breathe, like relax your shoulders and not feel like you're a threat or that you might be harmed. That feels like a beautiful future. For me, it's, I've got my gardens, so my freedom is also looking at people like walking around barefoot and like sharing like papaya. So I've got very specific ideas, but it's also a radical future where people know each other, where people walk down the block and they say hello, and you know like how somebody's mom is if she's sick, like you ask about her, like. For me, the radical future that liberated, that like beauty, that sense of community is like if you go to the Caribbean, like look around there and like look at like mango trees growing wild, and like look at people like passing you like saltfish and bakes, and like feel that, and like then take all of that love and put that around the world, and that's my radical free future.
And honestly, that's so beautiful. And if there's one thing that I want you all to take away, it's that rest and joy are both radical acts of resistance. Shout out to the NAP Ministries. Follow them. But it's so important because it's like you said, our joy is something that no one can ever take away from us. And I don't know, I feel like when I smile, it is my way to, stick it to the man. So tonight, I want you all to find joy because you deserve it in this world that we live in with this, climate crisis and some other crises that are happening. I want you all to be happy and joyful. Thank you so much for sharing space with us. Thank you so much for being at the First Earth Sessions.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cry, but we have an amazing musician that's about to perform. So I'm gonna hand it over to, I think, Kiana or Sammy, and then mix and mingle and get involved with these incredible organizations. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.